There you go. All right, we're recording now, so off we go. Any questions from Luke or Youssef on fueling goal ballers on and off the court?
Yeah, I watched some parts of the video. I only got to it this afternoon. But one of my questions is, what was the kind of the easiest and simplest advice you could give to keeping club level players on the right tracks with regards to diet, eating healthy, and also staying hydrated, especially for training and for tournaments, which I would imagine would be slightly different?
Mm-hmm. I think first and foremost, I think people try to overcomplicate nutrition when actually doing the basics and having daily habits is what's going to build the foundation for your performance. I think too many times people at the club level especially look to be part of some kind of diet culture or for some fad or some kind of supplements to support the diet, and they rely too much on those type of foods. But if you just do the foundations right, so always encouraging a wide variety. So as I said in the session, try not to cut out any food group. Be confident and enjoy, have a positive relationship with food. That's probably most important. Getting themselves into the kitchen so that they can learn the habits, they can gain confidence, they can start to set themselves up for as they're getting older. That's a massive one in terms of a life skill. So it's not necessarily just about what to eat, it's having the daily habits, and it's also about getting themselves in the kitchen as early as possible. That's what I would say. In terms of hydration, I know when I'm working with some of the senior players, they forget where they've put the bottles, they forget to drink, all these kind of things. So I'm sure with the COVID measures which are going to come into place, everybody's going to have a separate area as to where the bottles and their gear is going to be designated moving forwards. There are some little devices which you can get for your water bottles which link to apps on your phone. I'm not sure whether they're compatible with the voiceover yet, but it's like reminders to help you drink. I know that when I'm at home doing my work, I forget to eat and drink sometimes, or forget to eat and drink. So there's these little, it's like a little plastic gadget which you can drop into the water bottle, then that'll send a reminder to your phone telling you that you need to drink at certain points. I think the price is between £20 to £30, so a little bit pricey for what it is, but gaining some structure is probably a huge part of establishing a foundation. So are you waking up and are you having breakfast? Are you hitting a minimum of 5 fruit and vegetables per day? Do you have a positive relationship with food? How many hours are you sleeping for? All those basic habits are what's going to set a foundation for young goalball players, really.
I think I'm, as well as working as development member of staff, Jody, I'm a club coach as well. So, I mean, this has been recorded. So, South Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, if you listen back to this is aimed at you. I think it's stressing, which you've mentioned there, the importance of, the holistic value of nutrition and diet. And a lot of people think, oh, well, it's, that's what the GB players do. I'm not GB, I'm just recreational, or, just playing for a bit of fun. I think, it's stressing, isn't it? The importance of what we eat and drink every day is important. It's not just about that 2-hour training session every other Wednesday night, or that tournament every 3rd month. So if you can kind of preach a bit of that for me, that would be good, please, just to help me hammer home my point that they shouldn't be turning up at training with a Greg's pasty, because it doesn't really matter, because I'm not aspiring to be GB, which is fine, but you can still make yourself a better athlete by not having a Greg's pasty or any other branded pasty that you'd like.
I would actually say down at the developmental level, there's more margin for improvement than there is at the elite end of the goalball players. So when we're at the elite end, we're really looking for the 1%, the fine margins you might have heard before. For performance, they're already training quite a lot, so it's how can they make changes to improve those 1%, whereas down at the developmental level, we usually find that there's more margin to improve. So, as I say, can they get in more training sessions? Are they lifting weights? Are they fueling themselves? So just simple things like the 3 T's of fueling. So are they consuming a meal 2 to 4 hours before training, or are they leaving it really, really late before training, within an hour, and consuming a large meal? And then is that going to help them on the court? Probably not. They're probably going to be sluggish. There's so much more available, I think, for the developmental age to improve, really. And a lot of the research is in the more amateur and domestic players. So we know that within those players, that's where the improvements are seen. As I say, as you get into the elite, that's where it becomes a little bit harder to find those smaller margins. So yeah.
I think that the timing point that you made in the video is very kind of pertinent to when I was in my kind of developmental stage. So going through adolescence and trying to understand when I personally could eat at what times before I would do any kind of sport. And I kind of quickly found out that if I was eating an hour and a half before, I would feel very sick. And I was one of those ones that would have to kind of go more 3 hours. Otherwise I was feeling really kind of, my stomach would be all over the place and I wouldn't be able to play properly. And I guess as a coach, it's trying to just work with your, I guess, younger athletes and try to help them find that out themselves and timings and what to eat for refueling and getting themselves ready for whether it be training or whether it be a match at a week, a tournament at a weekend. I think that was really, really good, a good thing to point out.
It's very much highly individualised nutrition, not just in terms of your personal food preferences, but also the time it takes for you to digest the food. As you just said, Luke, you know, for me, 3 hours is like the sweet spot for me, where I don't feel hungry afterwards, but the food's absorbed and digested and I feel ready to go when I'm playing football. But yeah, similarly, in terms of the amount of food to consume, again, that's very highly individual based on your body weight, your muscle mass, the exercise duration, intensity. There's a lot of variables. So it's not about copying each other. It's finding what works for you and making that a long-term system and a long-term way of life rather than diet, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
I think with training sessions, they're obviously a lot more structured and timetabled, so you know you're training this day from this time every so often. But tournaments can be a real challenge because there can be exceptionally long days when you factor in travel. So often you can't, carry enough food with you, and there's not. Ironically, at sports centres, there's often not the best food sources there. A number of times you can smell greasy chips in venues. Yeah. And then the structure of the day, you don't often know when your games are until the day itself or just before, and it's grabbing, I think, appropriate nutrition between games, trying to plan it out. We'll often look at fixtures at the start of the day saying, right, that's probably the best window for lunch, but that might be 1:30 when you've been on the go since 6:30. That might be too late, or swap it around the other way, it might be too early. So it is a challenge, I think, definitely.
Yeah, and I cover quite a bit of that in the next session. But yeah, it's finding a slot within the tournament where you've probably got the longest break to consume the most amount of food. So ideally you want to kind of graze through the day and then identify that slot where you can consume a larger meal, whether that's a pasta dish or whether it's chicken wrap, hitters, some couscous, whatever that may be. It's finding that slot. And I think before the tournament, as you mentioned, it's so tempting to just go to Greg's on the way, or to have food, have the burgers and chips or croissants, a sausage roll, whatever it may be from the canteens at the venues. But as much as possible, you're in control and you have a choice. Nutrition is very much down to choice. And if you don't want to have your healthy meal that you've prepared, then there's so many temptations which can easily just take you off that. So it's about having a plan and sticking to it. So whether that's prepping some meals before the tournament, having your snacks ready, getting yourself a cooler bag and taking that with you, then yeah, those are going to help you.
I thought that's what we do anyway, Jody. I thought we bring us our meal and then go, actually, I'm going to go and meet Faith for Greg's Butty in the morning.
Well, yeah.
Isn't that what we all do?
That's what coaches do, I think.
Absolutely.
It's been a little bit worrying when we've been doing a featured Thursday during lockdown, where we've kind of got to know an athlete more, and I think Youssef was featured in it as well. And there's always the question of what's your post-tournament meal. And the number of times that McDonald's has come up and pizza is slightly worrying. I mean, pizza not so much, but as negative as a McDonald's, but it's like, actually just save that for another day. Maybe post-tournament, let's try and get something a bit better inside us, and then if we must have a McDonald's, do it later. So, but yeah, different story for coaches, definitely. We can do that. We talk a good game, but don't play a good game.
Yeah.
Last Goalball.
I guess we have to set the example some way.
So, Youssef, have you got any questions?
You mentioned about snacking, sort of during tournaments and training sessions, and I'm going to admit I'm really unhealthy. I tend to eat the odd chocolate bar and whatnot, but would sort of, if I sort of didn't eat that and had a cereal bar instead, would that be better, do you think? Or, you know, obviously it would, but what alternatives could I have instead of chocolate that will keep me going?
Well, I think you kind of answered your own question there, Youssef. So you already know the answer. Something like a cereal bar would be a better option than chocolate, especially in a tournament setting or a long day. The issue you have is if you consume a lot of sweet foods early on, your energy levels, you're going to go up, but then you're going to hit the wall and you're going to come back down again. And what you're really trying to do is have energy levels which are quite sustained and stable through the day, so that when you get on the court, that's when you can come into action. Other alternatives to chocolate bars, so I presume you've got a bit of a sweet tooth.
Yeah, I do. Very sweet.
Yeah. So the cereal bars, custard pots, rice pudding, jellies. I don't know if you've heard, you can get these little Hartley's jelly pots. They're brilliant as well. They'll also add to your fluid requirements as well. Pretzels, don't know if you like them. You can get small bags of popcorn. What else could you have? Fig rolls. Have you ever had a fig roll before?
I don't think I have, no.
Okay, fig rolls are like a little biscuit that's got, like, let's call it dried fruit inside. But those are actually really high in carbohydrates, which are what are going to provide you with the fuel on the court. But they also contain a lot of electrolytes, so your potassium, your sodium and magnesium. So they're great for also helping you retain water and hydrate as well. Alternatively, you've got things like malt loaf, rice cakes with jam, bagels, any of the go foods that are mentioned in the nutrition session. Those high carbohydrate snacks are what's going to tick the box for you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think there's a bit of a myth, isn't there, around the magical powers of jelly babies and Jaffa cakes, and that instant hit, but then that instant drop as well. I think because people see goalball, a goalball game as 15 to 45 minutes, depending on your level. And yeah, it might give you the energy for that game, but it's not going to sustain you for the duration of the tournament, is it?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, most competition is probably within a tournament setting, and it's about sustaining the long days. So the jelly babies and the Haribos, the Jaffa cakes, there is a place for them, but it's towards the end of the day when you really do need that hit. Otherwise, it's, as I say, try and graze small through the day, then get a good meal inside you at the longest break. And then if you make it to the final heats or you've got a really long day, then near the end, that's where you want that final boost of energy from things like sweets, which are quickly digested and absorbed. I'm going to give you that energy.
I think one that both me and Tom have seen at tournaments is the amount of people on the sports drinks, going to the machine, getting the Lucasades and the Red Bulls, etc. Would you say there's a time and a place for them, or do you prefer soft drinks, cordials, water, that kind? Which would you say was best?
I think with goalball, in certain sports, then they can be beneficial. I think with goalball, you do get quite a bit of rest compared to some sports. So there are times where you can take the timeouts and the breaks. So I would recommend that you stick to water and diluted juice if you don't like water on its own. And as I say, you can always use a sports drink as a recovery drink to help get the quick sugars back into you. But you have got the issue of, spending money on fillings and going to see the hygienist for your teeth and stuff after that as well. So yeah, I'd always try to stick to water and diluted juice options because you do have the opportunity to take food on in goalball. So I'd go for that. You can also get gels as well. I don't know if anyone's heard of those. So you can get these carbohydrate gels, which is a really concentrated form of carbohydrates. And again, they can cause some stomach upset when you start using them because they're so concentrated. So I don't think you need them. In terms of the Red Bull, so Red Bull's what we call a synthetic caffeine. So what it does is, like the jelly babies and stuff, is makes your energy levels go up and then it makes you come back down again. It makes you crash and burn. It's much better if you can consume plant-based caffeine, so coffee, tea, those type of things, or even if it was caffeine tablets. Caffeine is an ergogenic aid and it will improve your performance slightly, but people have different tolerance levels. Some people get the shakes with it, they can't handle too much of it. Some people have some problems on the stomach. So yeah, whatever suits you. But if you feel like you're needing that pick-me-up, then caffeine is great. But I'd always try to go for more of a coffee rather than a Red Bull that's full of sugar and it's going to make you crash and burn.
Yeah. Tom, any other questions, Youssef? You're on mute at the moment, Youssef.
I don't think I do at the moment, no.
It's fine. Luke, have you got any more?
No, not at the moment. I think the video covers it really well.
Yeah.
The presentation that was up, so I think, yeah, that was a really good resource to have as well.
Tom, have you got anything else?
No, I think, like Catherine said before, it's not what and when it's kind of like how much you eat of stuff, and don't probably realise that when you're in a tournament setting that you're always eating so much just to try and power your way through, and then it's kind of like little pick up, especially for like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour journey home from a tournament. It's that little pick me up at an hour and a half in that just gets you over that last 2.5 hour bits of journey. So it's not ideal. I completely know that it's not ideal, but sometimes we may as well have it just to, like I said, just that little pick me up that gets you through it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think just a little bit on the current situation is with when we do get back to training stroke competing and a lot of the cafes are shut, it's what do you put in your bags, and you can't rely on vending machines and cafes. So you do become more self-reliant. So it is, as Jody was saying there, packing the night before and making sure you get the right foods in your bag to bring with you. Yeah,
it's a case of, you won't forget your shade, so make sure you don't forget your milkshake for afterwards. Make nutrition a priority just as much as you would your kit. And nutrition, it takes time to learn the habits. We don't establish habits and we're able to implement them all the time. But the best thing is to keep repeating it to make it become a habit. So if you associate, for example, some of the senior players, they'll do a lifting session and they associate that straight away with having a protein shake after it. Whether that's the best option, it's still a habit which is going to help towards their goals. It's the same with after a training session, what have you got packed in your bag that's quick and easy to digest afterwards? So is it a banana and some fruit or the milkshake? So align the session with your food also. Make it like a joint thing, then you'll remember it more often. That kind of makes sense.
Any more questions, anyone?
I got a question for a friend.
For a friend, yeah.
For a friend,
That same friend I've got, Catherine.
Possibly. at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people, as I said, it's recreational sport. It's for fun, and the social element's important. So the 1 pint after training session, where do we sit with that one? So alcohol consumption for those that are over 18 and wish to engage.
Yeah, so are we talking after a match and tournament, say, or are we?
I think sometimes people will meet up on the Friday night prior to the Saturday tournament, or if it's a weekend tournament,
In between.
you know, maybe Saturday night, a glass of wine. And I don't think we've got any kind of raving alcoholics, but some people will have it, well, other than Tom. But you know, some people will have a glass of wine or a pint on the Saturday night before Sunday morning. So I'm guessing in terms of the hydration tick list, it's probably not high on it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The research suggests that if you have a pint after, then it's probably not going to do anything. If it's a social time and you've got the bond in there with your teammates, then it's probably not going to hamper your hydration or your recovery too much. It's when you're getting more into the 3 pints or the 3 drinks and beyond. If you're on a glass of wine, then that's a higher percentage, so you wouldn't be entitled to as much. But I think it's important to remember the social element of sport as well, not just the nutrition priorities. So yeah, I quite like having a pint after football, just because that's engraved within our culture. It's a similar culture with rugby. They'll drink a lot. Before a tournament, I would always recommend limit the alcohol. Essentially, you want to set yourself up so that you're showcasing your talent on the day. So consuming alcohol before is not going to help with that.
What's the definition before then? Tournament Saturday, the lead up to it.
So the day. So if you've got a tournament, then you want your nutrition to be good the day before, so 24 hours before, so on the Friday, and then on the day off. So it's only one day. So you save yourself for afterwards if you really do want one.
Will that answer the question for your friend?
I think so. I'll let you know when I've spoken to him. Tom, I'll call you afterwards, yeah?
Yeah, I'll speak to you later. I was going to say, whether it was 0 on end after you won, whether you had a 0 on it, and whether that makes a difference.
Yeah, but just a small amount of alcohol, I'll be honest, it probably won't do anything. But again, it's the habits and it's the repeated habits which you want to set yourself, and how you want to look at yourself, I guess, in terms of being an athlete, and is that best practice? So.
Okay. Anything else? Are we done? That it?
That's okay.
Right. Thank you for your time today. Thanks, Jody, for answering questions on that one. We're back in an hour and a half time for questions on nutrition preparation for tournaments. So if Luke, you want to come back to that, Youssef, if you're back on that one, if there's anyone else you want to invite along, bring them along to it. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time.
Nip off and get a Mars bar and a Coke. And I'll be back with you.
I'll just